Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I think many of you are here for the Tokyo Olympic Games. The road to Tokyo Olympic Games was long and winding, but I'm glad it has been successful after all. And of course, we would have liked to welcome you by demonstrating our omotenashi hospitality, the culture of Japan, which is unfortunately disrupted by the pandemic this time around. Still, I think the Olympic Games told us, as they did in the past, that the people of the world can get united in emotion and in goodwill. I hope it does not end merely as a midsummer dream. Today, as the Tokyo Olympic Games nears its finale, I would like to take this opportunity to explain the media people in Japan and overseas about Tokyo's another initiative after the Olympics, namely the initiative to upgrade Tokyo's financial markets into a global financial center. We need a better functioning financial intermediaries to serve the people and to meet the challenges that we face today. Like the Olympic Games, a financial center needs good infrastructure and financial professionals to perform their skills. So we welcome entries of high-skilled professionals from overseas to compete with Japanese players here in the Tokyo market. So let me talk about the Tokyo's Financial Center initiative. It is driven by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and the Organization of Global Financial City Tokyo, or FinCity.Tokyo, for which I serve as chairman. Now, this slide provides an overview of the FinCity.Tokyo. FinCity.Tokyo was established in 2019 as Japan's first public-private partnership financial promotion organization based on the Global Financial City Tokyo vision formulated by Tokyo Governor Ms. Yuriko Koike in 2017. Our goal is not to just build scale, like in the bubble era in the late 1980s. Now, back then, Tokyo was a financial center and was a base to what then appeared to have been a powerful fleet of Japanese banks, which was often compared to the invincible Spanish Armada in the international financial community. Now, we don't want that revival of financial center that just boasts of its size. Rather, our goal is to upgrade Tokyo as a financial center that can help resolve Japan's social and economic challenges through effective utilization of household assets, which amounts to almost $18 trillion, and thus to bring Japan's economy back on track to sustain growth. So the initiative is launched not for the sake of Tokyo alone, but to serve the entire society and economy. FinCity.Tokyo's key role is to collect and disseminate information through dialogues with stakeholders around the world. We have daily interaction with domestic and foreign financial institutions, including banks, institutional investors, asset managers, and fintech companies. They provide us with good ideas on how Tokyo can offer business opportunities or how it can be elevated to a global financial center more broadly. Their specific needs are then translated into concrete policy recommendations. The government took them very seriously, and the Financial Center Initiative is now a national project pursued by the Suga administration. Many actions, including tax reforms and relaxation of visa requirements, were taken this year. FinCity.Tokyo, in this regard, functioned as a kind of intermediary among the financial industry, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and the ruling party. I think this channel worked extremely well, and we were able to achieve more concrete actions than we had initially expected. Now, FinCity.Tokyo's function is not unique. There are similar bodies overseas promoting their own financial centers. And as a matter of fact, we work with a range of peers overseas, such as the City UK in the United Kingdom, Paris Europlace in France, Frankfurt Main Finance in Germany, and the Financial Services Development Council in Hong Kong. as shown in this slide, I think four components are necessary to be a financial city. Diverse business opportunities, innovation supported by talented and creative people are obvious drivers. But I think culture also matters. I know creative human resources tend to gather in cities where culture is rich. And therefore, I think nurturing culture is essential to enhancing the attractiveness of a financial city. Financial cities in the world tend to have active scenes for performing arts, I think. And Tokyo, in this regard, has a lot to offer culturally. Tokyo, formerly named Edo, had been the city where the samurai shogunate, Tokugawa shogunate, ruled the country for 300 years before becoming the capital of modern Japan almost 150 years ago. So it's a city blended with traditional and modern elements of Japanese culture. The culture is very diverse. For example, talking about gastronomy, for your information, Michelin awards stars to more than 200 restaurants in Tokyo, which is unparalleled by any major city in the world, including Paris, incidentally. Tokyo has a network of well-developed public transportation that takes you to every cultural spot. And indeed, trains operate with utmost precision. To me, they seem to be a little bit obsessed with the notion of precision, that if a train arrives its destination 3 minutes late, the conductor would apologize for the delay. Tokyo is also known to have a very low crime rate, making it probably the safest major city in the world. It is probably the only major city in the world where you can take a nap safely on a subway train. And of course, I must not forget jazz. The argument that financial cities thrive on rich cultural life is supported by an interesting correlation between jazz and finance. And as shown in this slide, among the cities selected as 25 world jazz cities, 13 are ranked in the Global Power City Index published by the Mori Memorial Foundation. And in Asia, only Tokyo is included among the 25 best jazz cities. So in order for Tokyo to grow as a financial city, we will continue to focus on cultural aspects. I have to say I'm very sorry that you weren't able to explore Tokyo's culture for yourselves this time around. But please do come back when the pandemic is behind us. Now let me talk about what kind of financial center Tokyo would like to be. Obviously, we know we have to take into account the dramatic changes in the environment surrounding international finance, particularly in the recent years. Key factors include changing situation in East Asia, Brexit, race to the green, as government said for carbon neutral by the middle of the century, and of course the pandemic that continues to be a threat to the world. So to respond to these changes and challenges, we embarked on a project to revise the global financial city Tokyo vision, which was, as I said, formulated in 2017. We thought we needed a new blueprint. And as the chair of the advisory panel connected to this project, I have recently announced a new proposal for the revision of the vision concept based on our discussion in the panel. This slide shows the outline of the revised vision. And as you see, it has 3 policy pillars. First, promotion of green finance through a new strategic effort called the Tokyo Green Finance Initiative, or TGFI. And second, financial digitalization. And third, accumulation of a wide range of financial players. Responding to the deepening climate change is a particularly urgent issue that we have to collectively tackle. When I was a kid, we didn't have air conditioners in our school classrooms. But this is no longer possible in this sweltering summer heat these days. I think this is something that has to do with the climate change. Now, since the entire Japanese industry must head for carbon neutral by 2050, all firms, including the Mittelstand small companies, must go green. Given Japan's thick, multi-layered industrial base, this requires huge amount of investment, and this must be financed smoothly. And against this backdrop, the background that we want to promote Tokyo's role as a green financial center to help firms in Japan as well as in those firms in Asia-Pacific region to meet the big financing requirement. Therefore, Tokyo tends to be a financial center that connects domestic and global investors with the industrial sector's huge financing demand to meet the challenges in the post-COVID world. ESG investment is at the core of sustainable financing to address the climate change. Looking at the current state of financing in the private market, as you see in this slide, ESG investment is expanding rapidly worldwide. In the 2 years from 2016, the total global ESG investment, which you see on the left side, grew from $23 trillion to $31 trillion, which is a 30% increase. And in Japan, as you see on the right, it increased by 4.2 times, from $0.5 trillion to $2.1 trillion. And as a matter of fact, Japan's ESG investment amount is the third largest in the world after Europe and the United States. But of course, from a global perspective, Japan's share is still small at 7%. This, however, means that there is a significant room for market expansion in Japan. And this is exactly what is happening in Japan. This slide gives you a closer look at Japan. And on the left chart, you see the ratio of ESG assets to total assets under management in Japan rose by about 15% between 2016 and 2018. Now, I think this evidences the increasing importance of ESG in the Japanese asset management industry. And this is taking place simultaneously with the diversification of investment products. Green bond is a typical instrument. The chart on the right shows a rapid expansion in the amount of green bonds issued by Japanese corporate firms, which reached, as you can see, $9.8 billion in 2020. This implies the amount increased by an average of 76% annually between 2014 and 2020. I'm quite sure that this trend is going to continue. This will provide domestic and overseas investors with ample investment opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, Tokyo launched Tokyo Green Finance Initiative, or TGFI. As my final part of my presentation, I want to elaborate a little bit more on this initiative. It is Tokyo's new strategic initiative to create a green finance ecosystem for investors and businesses from across the world. It represents Tokyo's desire and willingness to become a green global financial center. The initiative comprises 3 pillars. The first pillar focuses on the development of green finance market. Here, the demarcation of roles between the government and Tokyo is that the government builds the infrastructure and Tokyo utilizes it. For example, the government, in collaboration with the Tokyo Stock Exchange, is installing a verification system that identifies which are green bonds and which are not. The government is also building an information platform. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government intends to use the platform in disclosing corporate firms' ESG-related information it owns in a way that is easily accessible for any investors or other interested parties. The second pillar is about expanding the base of participating players in green financing. Foreign players are welcome. And for example, Tokyo stands in this regard ready to support incoming foreign firms in obtaining licenses. Also, Tokyo intends to take steps to reduce the cost burden for foreign financial companies engaged in green finance when starting business in Tokyo. And furthermore, Tokyo will also provide business matching services for incoming firms to find suitable business partners in Tokyo. The third is about sharing information with the public on the latest environmental policies and available technologies. Here, the strategy is to launch a number of projects related to Tokyo's sustainable recovery with an aim of generating demand for green financing. Meanwhile, as a part of the third pillar, Tokyo is also serious about nurturing human resources skilled in ESG. In this area, we plan to collaborate with a range of universities and research institutes in Tokyo to foster professionals that are highly skilled in sustainable finance. So in this way, I think the Tokyo Green Finance Initiative will add to the momentum towards green economic recovery. Finally, I want to offer some information on the Japan National Stadium shown in the photo here, which is, of course, the venue for the Olympic Games. The exterior of the stadium makes abundant use of timber up to the very top. Specifically, cedar trees sourced from Japan's 47 prefectures are being used. They are placed facing the direction of their home prefecture to symbolize a sense of unity of the entire nation. The stadium is also designed to be environmentally friendly, maximizing ventilation by bringing winds into the stadium and making use of solar power. Now, this is just another example how serious we are to become green. The Tokyo Olympic Games will be over in a few days, and I hope you go back home with memories of the Games under extraordinary circumstances, along with the message I delivered this afternoon that Tokyo wants to be greener or greenest city by functioning as a global financial center. In closing, let me demonstrate our commitment by presenting a short promotional video that FinCity.Tokyo produced in collaboration with the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. And after that, I'm happy to take questions. So thank you very much for joining me today.
As the world moves toward a zero-carbon future, Tokyo has a key role to play as a global leader in green finance. Sustainability and climate change action are central to our city's post-pandemic growth. Our strategy for sustainable recovery will channel investment into economic, societal, and environmental regeneration and innovation.
Green finance will be the crucial key in Tokyo's implementation of policies from the perspective of sustainable recovery. We will build a mechanism to support the green shift of economy and society from the aspect of finance. And as one of the most environmentally advanced cities in the world and a global financial center, Tokyo will demonstrate leadership in the field of green finance.
Our signature Tokyo Green Bonds enable investors to be part of Tokyo's green transformation, while the Tokyo ESG Fund opens opportunities in renewable energy investment across Japan. The Sustainable Energy Fund will provide funds for expanding Japan's clean energy infrastructure. And the Tokyo Green Finance Initiative will offer global investors a multitude of ESG opportunities.
addressing the climate change is an urgent policy priority for Japan. Japan's industrial sectors require a huge amount of investment to go green, so we must mobilize financial assets accumulated in Japan. We must also attract investment from overseas to unleash green innovation and growth. This provides global investors with a great opportunity.
We are seeing huge opportunities for green investment in Japan. We are also developing over 3.5 gigawatts of renewable projects. There are a lot of lenders and investors who engage extensively in Tokyo, and we are the first Australian financial institution to issue a green loan in Japan.
Tokyo, as a financial center, stands ready to welcome you to work together with us in meeting this exciting and important challenge.
Tokyo not only draws talent, goods, funds, and information, but it's a clean city in all ways, from the environment to fairness and safety. Please join us in our endeavors.
Tokyo, the new global leader in green finance. Come join us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakaso. And I have a clearer understanding of your vision for Tokyo as an international financial center. Now, let's move on to the Q&A session. The first question is from an audience. The question is, what is the difference between Tokyo and other financial cities such as Hong Kong and Singapore? What are the advantages of Tokyo as an international financial center?
Thank you for this interesting question. In answering, the first thing I want to say is that we have to represent ourselves as the credible and reliable partner to the peers that have the same firm belief in free trade and investment based on the common value of democracy and freedom. Tokyo Financial Center, I think, must be built on this foundation. As I mentioned in my presentation today, Tokyo's role as a financial center is to connect the domestic and global investors with Japan's industrial sector's large financing requirements, and that is to meet the imminent challenges in the post-COVID world. So connecting investors' requirement and the corporate finances, the demand for corporate financing. This is the basic model, and this model is something that can be called supporting the real economy kind of model. And this role model is very different from that of Hong Kong, which continues to be the gateway to mainland China, or Singapore, which function as a hub connecting Asia with other regions. Now, in the meantime, I think Asia remains the region with strongest potential for growth. Japan is a mature economy. China is a growing economic superpower, and there are rising stars following their path. I think this ensures the region's sustained growth over the next decades. More than decades, I think. For many decades, I think. So while leveraging respective strengths, financial centers in Asia-Pacific region must find ways to collaborate and share resources in ways that can best contribute to reconstructing the global economy after the pandemic. I think this argues in favor of the view that the financial centers in the Asia-Pacific region can cooperate in a complementary manner. Mizuno-san, you mentioned the relative advantage of Tokyo. So as I mentioned, it is, first of all, Japan is a big industry with a multi-layered industry base. And secondly, of course, the financial center is going to be founded on the basis of democratic society.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakaso. Please allow me to ask some questions as moderator. For the further development of green finance in Tokyo, I think that it is essential for FCT, FinCity.Tokyo, to work closely with TMG, Tokyo Metropolitan Government. How do you evaluate the TMG's measures so far?
I want to commend a lot of things that are being achieved by Tokyo Metropolitan Government. Tokyo has done a great job. Let me take some examples. First of all, in line with the government policy to become carbon neutral, Tokyo Metropolitan Government announced that they will realize zero emission Tokyo. This targets net zero CO2 carbon dioxide emissions by 2050. And Tokyo subsequently launched various initiatives to make this happen. And as I said, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government has already taken many measures. Green bond, I think, is one instrument. And in this regard, Tokyo Metropolitan Government has been the front runner. For example, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, as I understand, was the first local government in Japan to issue green bond. It started issuing green bonds in 2017. And as I understand, this fiscal year, Tokyo Metropolitan Government plans to issue another 40 billion yen green bond. And also they have established, as we have seen in the video, the Tokyo ESG Fund, which is worth 5 billion yen. And of course, I must not forget to mention that Tokyo Metropolitan Government has announced the draft of new vision centering Tokyo Green Finance Initiative, TGFI. In line with this, I understand many measures will be implemented by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. So overall, I think Tokyo has done a great job and taking green steps, if you like, in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakaso. Let me ask you one more question. I heard that recently transition finance has been attracting a lot of attention in Japan, but I would like to know its updates and how FinCity.Tokyo will promote it.
Okay. So what does the transition financing mean? It means that it reflects the fact that not all firms, including smaller ones, can become green immediately. Because many firms will have to undergo transitional phase before becoming completely green. And this is why we think transition financing is necessary. So what are transition financing going to cover? I think it is going to cover such things like energy-saving investment, use of cleaner energy in the interim period, like liquid natural gas, as well as R&D investment to develop innovative sources, energy sources like artificial photosynthesis, hydrogen, ammonium, and to enhance carbon dioxide capture, utilization, and storage technologies. Obviously, all of these require a huge amount of money that must be financed smoothly in the market. And this is why transition financing is so important for the Japanese industry or the Japanese economy more broadly. So what are the private sector doing? There are a couple of so-called maritime shippers that have borrowed so-called transition loans. And another one issued a transition bond. What do the government do? In this regard, the Ministry for Economy, Trade and Industry, the METI, Ministry for Environment, and the Financial Services Agency jointly launched the so-called Basic Guidelines for Climate Transition Finance. This will guide the subsequent policy actions by the government. And I'm sure that Tokyo Metropolitan Government makes sure that they will continue to take care of smaller SMEs, small medium-sized enterprises, which account for about 90% of companies in Tokyo. So they will be looked after carefully by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government in their pursuing the transition finance and thus to green society. And Mizuno-san, you asked us what we do at the FinCity.Tokyo. So we plan to communicate to the outside world, the global investors, on the latest, providing them with the latest development in transition finance in Japan. That it's actually taking place in a good, in right directions. And a second thing that we want to do is to collect views from stakeholders, so that transition financing, I mean the road to transition financing will be smoother. We will collect information, their needs, and they will be translated in more policy recommendations as necessary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakaso. I'm afraid it's time to go, and that's it for the Q&A session. Mr. Nakaso, could you give the international media some final words?
Okay, thank you, Mizuno. I'm glad to. I think you are all here for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. As you know, 57 years ago, Tokyo hosted 1964 Olympic Games. I watched the games on TV, far away in West Germany, where I was brought up as a young boy. And even though I knew little about the economy, I was amazed to watch on TV the changing Tokyo skyline that people called Wirtschaftswunder in German, which is economic wonder, that Japan was performing at the time. It made me very optimistic about the future. Now, I know that this Olympic Games is different. I don't know how this Olympic game is going to be remembered in history, but the situation is obviously different, as I said. The empty stadiums and the summer heat remind us of the common challenges we face today: pandemic and climate change. I think they are symbolic reminder that we are all in the same boat. But so long as there is a sense of unity where collective efforts are felt necessary, I believe there is always ground for optimism. Tokyo is determined to perform its role in the united front as a green financial center after the Games, so as not to betray the optimism. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nakaso, for your forward-looking presentation today. This concludes Mr. Nakaso's session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.